Oh, we're live.
Preparing to go live.
Yeah. Oh, we're live.
Yeah, I'm about to pop out these preparing to go live.
Yeah.
One. There we go. Welcome to Four Thoughts of Our Founders, the podcast for the Higher Education Leadership Foundation. We are practitioners, scholars, athletes today, practitioners, and coaches. But most importantly, we're zealots for this space, the historically Black college and university space. Got some really special guests here today. We are not going to belabor the point. I want to welcome our guest, the athletic director for Southern University, Baton Rouge, A.D. Banks, Roman Banks.
Yes, sir.
We've got a future Hall of Famer in the, I guess we could say, in the NCAA space. Actually, all three of our
Absolutely
are Hall of Famers and future Hall of Famers on a different level. Coach Lavelle Moulton is here. And for North Carolina Central men's basketball, I know you've heard of them, all y'all big white colleges, because you see them every year in the NCAA. So don't act like you don't know what we're talking about.
Right. Don't act brand new.
Don't act brand new. You know, we bring the sauce in this black college space. And then we got the doctor, who is also a head football coach, the man at Alabama State University, Dr.
Ely.
Good Dr. Ely. How you doing, sir? Hey,
what's going on?
Welcome, fellas. How y'all doing today, man?
Good. Doing well. Good.
Wonderful. We are really happy to have you all join us today to really talk about something that we think, and I believe you all believe to be really important: hard iron, the hardwood, the gridiron, and the future of HBCU athletics. Before we get started, I want to introduce Dr. Melva Christie Williams, Vice Chancellor for Enrollment Management and Student Affairs at Southern University. She's in the system. She's at Southern.
We're not all over the place.
She had all of them.
She all over the place, yeah.
I'm all over the place.
What's going on, Melva? How you doing?
What's up? I'm doing great. I'm absolutely excited today because, as you know, now you know this, I live for athletics.
You do.
Live for the stuff. So I am excited to just hear more about the thoughts and perspectives of not only, the future of HBCU athletics and really having perspective of the athletic director, from that role and the head coach's role in two of the most exciting, sports that are mostly attended, well in the HBCU space with basketball and football. But just really want to hear your perspectives, of course, on COVID-19 and the future of HBCU athletics. I mean, we're going to get all into it.
The question is, the first really is, I'd like to know each of you, where were you? What were you doing when COVID-19 was real to you? When that moment, when you realized that COVID-19 was going to change everything for you. We may not have known, what scope was, but where were you when you realized that this is real?
Yeah, we'll start with you, Dr. Hill Ely.
Well, again, Hello to everybody. When COVID-19, first, hit the scene, we was actually on spring break, and I was there taking care of my father, who was going through hospice at the time, and was trying to get back and prepare for spring ball. And it was like, well, coach, I don't, talk to my football ops guy. It was like, coach, we got to get a plan for our players leaving campus because, with the virus and everything going on, it looks like we're going to shut down. So remotely trying to, get everything together, getting back, making sure the players, everyone get back to their, places that we recruited them from, and guys that couldn't get home, finding ways. Our AD, Jennifer Williams, and compliance person, Jacqueline Freeman, did a great job of making sure that they had everything that they need so everybody could get back to where they were. And then thinking, okay, well, they'll be back next week. Next week moved into next month, and then it moved to the month afterwards. So, it became a spiral situation where you end up back and, and you're waiting on your guys to come back, but they was out and about. They're gone.
Wow. What about for you, Coach Moten?
I think the reality set in. We were actually at the MEAC tournament. And I was laying in my room and I was watching NBA highlights of SportsCenter right before we were going to practice the following day. And I think it was the Utah Jazz versus Oklahoma City Thunder. And I saw that game was canceled. And immediately I knew it would be a snowball effect, because one thing I figured out is, the NCAA is kind of a copycat of whatever the NBA and the NFL is going to do, right? So it's not going to be long before they make decisions that's kind of parallel to the decisions that we see on that level. So I knew it was going to come down, because now it's really hitting close to home. Before, we probably didn't know and didn't really understand so much of it, but now when it's affecting the capital and the revenue and the pockets of billionaires and they're canceling games, I knew it was going to hit us. So the following day, we were playing in a tournament. We had just beat Delaware State, and we was going to advance to the semifinals. But it never felt right within the arena. Like, everyone around the arena was talking about the virus. And again, we didn't have any general understanding. And so I just didn't feel right. So I took my team back to the hotel, and the following day it was canceled. So that's when I knew it was real.
Wow. So you were in the throes of play when this happened. And so it was just your instinct to get the students back to the hotel, or was there any guidance from anyone? I mean, I know it was happening so quickly.
Yeah, the night before, the thing was, it just felt like an aloof type feeling, like it's a tournament, but it don't feel right? And it just had an eerie feeling in the gym. And I said, man, I don't want to be here. I said, now y'all can stay if you want to and watch this game or whatever, because we were going to play the winner. The game that we were watching. And I said, I'm going back to the hotel because this just doesn't feel right to me. And they said, Coach, we're going with you. So it was like the first time my entire team was like, yo, we out, we going.
They say, picture me rolling.
Yeah, picture me rolling, just like that. And the following day, we started getting word that all these tournaments was going to be canceled. And again, like, if you ever want to know what the NCAA is going to do, just look at the NBA and the NFL. It's going to be really close, to the decisions in which they make. So I just started seeing these tournaments being canceled every hour, every 15 minutes. And then it just continued on. And I said, well, as the MEAC, we're not going to be the last ones to cancel the tournament. We were almost like the last ones to cancel the tournament. So they did make the final decision, and we just had to live with it.
Wow. So AD Banks, you are the athletic director for Southern University, and you're managing all of the programs. I mean, so what was it like for you?
Yeah, so, that morning is just like Coach, our team just won the first round, which we play our first round games at home. And I got Sean them off early that morning. The basketball team, I got the tennis team going to Florida. We're sitting there and say, okay, yeah, go ahead. I was giving everybody the green light because everything still was on. And so by the time I headed to the airport to get on the plane, and in my arrival
from Baton Rouge to Atlanta, things changed. My phone, I had so many messages, my phone was blowing up. And the commissioner from the conference called me and say, hey, you know, we're going to cancel the tournament. And mind you, he and I was just talking that night. Everybody was talking that we were going to play the game with no fans. And to change the tone from no fans to canceling the games, I knew that this was a serious problem. And so I turned all the teams around that was on the road. Our tennis team coming back from FAM, and the basketball team obviously was coming back. But in the airport, in that Atlanta airport, is where it hit home to me. Being that was calling teams back, everything was being canceled, and you could see everything on the news about the NCAA tournament. But there was a person that evidently had symptoms of the virus or had the virus that was at a terminal right next to us. Ooh. And obviously a pilot was eating lunch, and he scattered. And he came over where I was sitting, and he was saying that lady had the virus and nobody's doing anything. And everybody just started scattering. And then it was out of control until a person from the airline came to assist, put them in the area and kind of spread everybody out. And obviously from that point, you know, I'm looking around and I say, oh, this thing is really, really serious, because, you know, you've been hearing about it, but to see how people was reacting and canceling games. And by the time I got back to campus, dealing with the teams, and then the president called us in, and we had to start at that point, make a decision about sending students home. Then this thing starts spiraling out of control.
Wow.
I first, Coach Ely, sorry for your loss. I'm really sorry to hear that. And Coach Moulton, I got a really quick question for you. Can you sing or either move like New Edition? I had to hurry up and ask that question to get it out. I know you grew up with them, so let's just get that out of the way.
In your bio that you grew up with.
I can even hear it in your cadence.
Them days pass, you know, before this quarantine, yeah, but I done put in like 15 quarantine pounds. So
Let me ask you guys this, man. I want to ask this question because I'm not an athlete. I didn't play in college or anything. But when I watch our student athletes, and I went to law school at a SEC school, when I watch our athletes, I don't really see that much of a difference. I know the guys are bigger and they have more stuff available to them. Our students coming through the HBCU ranks, how do they equate to those other folks? And what's the real big difference from those Division I programs in our schools? And
you know what, Herman, to your same point, I think Donald will be a great person to talk about that, because his son plays for the University of Maryland, plays football there. So awesome. Why don't you start us off, because you have absolutely an inside perspective on that.
Well, you know, it comes down to resources and the things that they're able to provide at that level. You know, my son, he comes in and he's been here since the pandemic been going on. Matter of fact, himself and one of his buddies from Kentucky, the other one from Minnesota. And, you know, and I can't train my guys, so I've been training them. And they all eat the same, but for whatever reason, as you look at the resources they have, you know, when we're watching film together, you know, each one of them have an iPad with all the access to the film. When they talk about the things that they have for as the availability of nutrition, I mean, at their fingertips. And one of the major things that they have, they each get cost of tuition. So these guys, while they've been on the pandemic, they've been getting checks every month. So that the impact of not having the cafeteria open is not the same as the phone calls from my players who are trying to find, coach, you know, we can't get assistance because we're full-time students. My mom is not working. She wasn't prepared for me to come. They don't have those problems. Luckily, our president, Dr. Quinn Ross, was able to get the stimulus from the government, and each one of my players recently just got $900 and some, which now took a lot of burden off of their families. The majority of the players that I call have jobs. These guys don't need to have a job, but every month These guys are getting $2,000 to pay their rent and extra money to spend. So the pandemic gave a chance to see that they don't have the same problems that our guys have. And I think when it comes down to it, they all come out of school at 17, 18 years old with the same opportunity to play at the next level. Mm-hmm. Is what we're able to provide for them when they get to that level. And it's understandable. As I talk to them all the time, I was like, so who did y'all play for homecoming? Neither out of the three, nobody knows, because they don't have those traditional things that we're able to provide for that generation of guys that we serve. So those are some of the things that, we're in a pandemic, and the only thing that they know is that they're not in the weight room working out. My guys are working jobs and catching.
Yeah. Wow.
That's interesting because the COVID has, and we're coming to you, Coach Moulton, but COVID has, illuminated a lot of disparities. I didn't even think about the disparities in athletics. Like I never even thought about it. The difference between, the bigs and the HBCUs. Coach Moulton, floor is yours, my brother.
Yeah, and I was going to say in terms of overall development, it's always, we can cut it and speak it however we want to, but it always boils down to money, right? And AKA resources. But the money is the thing that provides those creative resources and resourceful advantages for these kids to develop. My main thing, on the basketball level, and I'm sure it's on the football level as well, is number one, development. You have to be able to absorb the physicality of the sport, right? So it's always interesting when our football team go play a major Division I school, let's say Duke or something. I was a quarterback in high school, so I'm a football guy. But the first thing that I always do when they snap the ball, I just watch the interior linemen. I just watch the trenches. And normally are pushing our players back that way. And the field development positions, they are kind of the same. But, one thing I found out with Power 5 schools and just not only how they train, because I think we all train pretty much the same way. We got the same weight room, the 45s, and, we get after it in that weight room. But the thing is, I know the University of Memphis, they had a chef that came in every morning at 7 o'clock, and their kids had to eat a mandatory breakfast from 7 to 9. But then the chef came back in at 9 o'clock at night and gave them a mandatory dinner. So they're never going to bed hungry. They're never going to bed with junk food on their stomach unless it's selective and they go back to their dorm. They're getting full course, pasta and chicken parmesan and things that can feed the muscles while they're lifting. And that's a competitive advantage. That's a physicality advantage right there. So I think that's the discrepancy between the larger schools and our schools, but it all boils down to money.
Yeah. AD Banks, what's your perspective on, on the athletic director side? I mean, you're seeing the funding, you're dealing with the donors, you're dealing with the resources that may, come into the university. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think both the gentlemen spoke well about resources, and no question about it, we are categorized as low resource institutions by the NCAA. So when you start talking about the SWAC and some other small conferences, we are low resource institutions. And so the Power 5, they were called the bigger schools are the Power 5. So that speaks about separation right there. And so when you start talking about the dollars to manage academics, the dollars to manage travel, where they can go travel and take academic people with them. They can have their own laptops. You talking about distant learning where they have tools where they can Zoom back to their professors and to their academic center when they're on the road. We just don't have those resources. And they're able to generate dollars with TV revenue and other types of revenue that people will buy into because they playing on the game, they playing on a large scale. And so probably, their TV contract is probably more than our budget total at most low source institutions. And so this thing it's not an equal playing field. I think the difference is that at our level, historical black college, we're able to buy into tradition. And a lot of times that's our staple recipe of trying to get people, trying to get these young people to come to our universities off tradition. If it was good enough for mom, daddy, auntie, it's good enough for you. And so you cannot, I always say all the time, you cannot blame a student athlete if he or she go to LSU and go on that campus, and the treatment that they're going to get, the amenities they're going to get, they probably going to get more money off cost of tuition than any student athlete of ours will get in 2 years. Yeah. And so when you start talking to apples and oranges, you can't blame a student athlete for picking that university in most cases, because it's all about what the offerings are. Right. And so 9 times out of 10, they're going to win that battle all the time. And so, in which there's no excuse not to win that battle. And so I just believe is that we in a space as historical Black colleges that all space is critical, and we're in a critical situation right now. There'll be a lot of universities, small universities like ours and historical Black colleges that probably won't make it through this pandemic. Okay, and so every dollar means much to us. And so you're talking about the money, we had to wait on COVID money as well to get our students home and to get, I think that CARES Act gave everybody a chance for every student to get a check. And so there's no special check for the student athlete. That was for every student that Coach mentioned. Right. And so we need to be mindful that this business, NCAA business, is big. It is definitely a divide, and we play on the scale of a divide. And I think that one thing that I have learned, our coaches, and I'm throwing a lot out at our coaches right now. All coaches that work at our level, they can work themselves up, and I think be very successful because they've been at the bottom. But I look at a lot of times coaches that's been at the top, the SEC level, and work their way down, sometimes run into a lot of turbulence because they've never been there. They used to having those things, and we used to have to come up with creative ways to get things for our student athletes in our programs.
Yeah. So let me ask you, I'm going to jump into this COVID because I want I know I'm getting text messages and so many questions about this. What should you be doing right now that you're missing? Because, we're going into fall and you're preparing for your upcoming seasons. And, I am sure that you're missing some important aspect of preparation for your sport. Yeah. And especially for football, I mean, August is critical. Right now is critical. We've missed, spring games. We've missed, a lot that, should be happening. And another concern of mine is that typically September 1, we're playing, I'm usually at Alabama State watching the Tuskegee game and excited about that. And that's early September. Are the students going to be prepared to just hop right into playing football, with things that we should be doing right now to prepare them mentally, physically, is academically as well, to ensure that they are prepared to go into the season with the appropriate grades? And then will we be prepared to actually physically play football come fall? So that's the...
So you asked a loaded question that, as you could tell, that there really haven't been a true answer. Even from the standpoint of the mention what the NCAA recommend. Right. Every day that goes by at this point, we get further away from starting dates, and you get further away from the coaches having the proper time to prepare their teams. And so and as you start talking about starting dates and not able to start on time, there'll be a lot of all universities, the first 2 or 3 games are money-making games. And so just like for Southern, we are playing in Detroit, and then a classic in Detroit, and then I think we have FAM coming at home. That's probably a combination of the 2 games is $1 million for us, a little over $1 million. And right. So that's revenue that at our university for budget wise that you count in, because you're going to play game guarantees and you got a specific amount of money. And so when you start talking about missing out on $1 million out of your budget as it relates for games, and then you're concerned about that, how far down the line you're going to play. You're concerned that people are not anxious enough right now buying season books.
Right.
You don't know, you don't have the formula together about social distancing in the stadium. And so for Southern right now, I tell them all the time, it's going to take us a lot once we lay out the groundwork just to be ready for our first football game. Now, obviously, I don't think that we'll be able to play the beginning of the season. We're looking at possibly October, but I'm not very sure about October. I just think that probably you'll see some conferences going into the springtime, which I recommend to give yourselves a chance and get prepared for football season. But here's my thought, and I will say this, and I always stand by this. Until they give science, medicine, the professionals in that area, until they give us a vaccine or medicine, I'm not willing to put student athletes at risk. And
Wow.
their life come first. The health and well-being and safety of our student athletes come first. And I just can't imagine without having some type of comfort in that area of saying, okay, student athletes, you go out there and play. And then you have to start thinking about the fans and what you have to provide about them in that area. You know, if we still wearing masks and all those things, sanitizer machines, it's a whole new realm of world about cleaning uniforms now. And those machines cost a lot of money. So you would see some universities pushing. Some of the bigger schools are pushing to play because what? They can get the TV contract money. They talking about playing with no fans. What it look like in the SWAT to play with no fans? Okay, we're not getting any TV money. And so you just spending money that you don't have to play a game. I don't think that's very smart. Yeah. And so I think that you have to lay all these out. You have to be very mindful. And the first thing would be about safety. And then you have to fight the financial battle that I believe all the universities, small universities, low resource institutions, especially in our conference, going to have to fight an uphill battle for the next 2 years.
Yeah. Coach Ely,
Well,
what about Paul?
Well, it's good to, hear, Mr. Banks talk about the economical impact on what we have, and all that stuff is relevant when it comes to HBCUs. But the majority of the young men that I've recruited are young men that normally wouldn't have had an opportunity to go to college. So we're still recruiting guys based on our mission of the universities. And I think all of us are doing it as a HBCU. So the problem that the economic part, who you play for the $1 million, yes, it's a need, and that's the AD's approach. But I'm looking at that young man that when everything was shut down, I felt good because he's at home. Now that everything is open up, I'm looking at those young men that normally needed the guidance that we apply as coaches that we can't apply. I can't run a guy down 5 hours away when he's staying out after curfew, wearing his mama to death, not doing, hanging with his buddies, the same ones I tried to save him from. He's back in that element. So now when he comes back to campus, whenever that may be, I have to physically, mentally get him back to where he needs to be. I got some guys I've talked to lost 15, 20 pounds that play. We're in a contact sport. So we're not setting picks. We're like, I'm trying to coach a contact sport through social distancing. It's virtually impossible. Yeah, you get a chance to work on the intellectual, you get a chance to do the Zoom, but now I have to have a guy physically and mentally fit to make a collision with a man. And I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do that because I'm training something that I can't see. And now with everything opening back up, you got to be the father for these young men. And there's so many of them in so many different places that's right back into what we tried to save them from. And right. And as we try to get them back to campus, it's almost like coaching with freshmen. We normally don't count freshmen because all the freshmen come in blind. But can you imagine 110 men arriving to your campus and you blind? You don't know what they look like. and what you need to do to get it done.
Wow. Yeah. Coach Moten.
Yeah, I think Roman and Coach just kind of hit the nail on the head. You know, it's a little different for me. Well, a couple of things. I'll start here. This is the part that scares me. And I know I've been getting a little more rest than I normally get, but it's almost like I slept through this. Like, it's almost like people just got tired of sitting in the house. So they just said, okay, let's go back into society. Because I haven't heard any cures, any remedies, any antidotes, any vaccine. I haven't heard any of those things. I'm like, yo, like, what's really going on out here? So at this rate, I know here in North Carolina, it was reported that we have almost double the cases now since we've opened up the state, reopened the state. So the health and welfare and the safety of these young men and their families and our families, because it puts everyone in jeopardy. That's my highest priority right now. In terms of what I would normally be doing with my squad, I'm kind of fortunate of the timing of this thing. If I could draw a silver lining out of the cloud, basketball is the only 2-semester sport, and we spend an awful lot of time with each other. And now is the time that I don't want to see them and they don't want to see me. They need a break from me. I need a break from them. That's just being completely honest. So
Yeah. Right now, you know, y'all are usually social distancing.
Yeah, this is when I really apply social distancing right here. Like, I think I invented that. I don't want them bothering me, and I don't want to be bothering them. And they feel the same way, because it's really imperative to recharge your batteries, because the season, Road can attest to this, like, it's such a mental exhaustion, you know, and it's such a long season, and we're up at 5:30 with each other, and we're constantly in each other's faces and demanding greatness and excellence. And so you need a break from all that. And so now during June, I don't even bother the kids. Normally this is my vacation time, and, you know, I'll have some camps. I'll let my assistants run the camps. And then, you know, for the month of June, I just take off and I'm gone. July 1st, we start back up again. And that normally means the beginning of the second session summer school. And so the guys will be taking classes, and now we'll start some 4-man workouts and things of that nature. But I don't even think they're going to be allowed back on campus right now. So even through Zoom calls, I'm trying not to, you know, put them in
with.
Yeah, you know, I'm still trying to practice my social distancing. I'm like, right. I love you. Y'all need me, call me, man. Everybody good right now. You know, I know y'all trying to catch up and everything, but, you know, it's one of those things where it's really weird, because, again, it's the unknown. Like, every situation that we can discuss in terms of this COVID-19 thing and when we're going to start back up is completely hypothetical. You know? I wanted to know who was going to be the Paul Revere of all this to say, okay, everything is good. This is going to be the first game, because I don't want that headache. I don't want that responsibility myself, because, like Coach mentioned, you know, just the fact that they want us to practice social distancing, but we coach contact sports, that's a paradox within itself. Like, that's a direct, you know, that's critical of one another. So we got to figure this thing out. And I think the only way we can figure it out is to lower the cases across America.
Right.
And make sure we're healthy before we go back into this.
It's time, man. And I think we have, here's the beauty of being in spaces where, you know, revenue is extremely important, but it's not more important than the safety of our kids. Right. And that prism, it's loud and clear listening to you three gentlemen, right? I know that coaches love what they do, want to be coaching, but I hear through you all that the safety of our kids is most important. That's refreshing. The question that most have in the field of athletics always is about winning, right? That everything, we're all measured on something. It's always about winning and losing. And in my day job as the president of a college, I'm never going to fire a coach for losing. I'm just not. I am a very competitive person. But winning off the field matters more to me. I know it, and I'm not trying to diminish anything. the where I'm going with this is how do you get your students to understand that life after athletics is just as important as the season that you're in now? How do you get them to pierce into the future, whether it be their athletic future or life after the game of basketball or football? How do you give them medicine while you're demanding excellence on the gridiron or the hardwood? How do you do that, Coach? Here, Ilya, start with you, please.
Well, the thing about it, that goes to the culture that the coach set. I've been a part of, programs that we won championship year in and year out. And we were able to, graduate a lot of young men. The program that I run here is that the coach, as I tell the players, it's not losing and winning, it's lesson and winning. As long as you learn from your defeat, it's not a loss. It only becomes a loss when you don't learn, because we're teaching life lessons. The fans, the administration, though, everybody wants to win and everybody wants to be a part of it. But I think when it gets down to it, you have to always put before the young men that we're coaching a generation. I'm not trying to get your goal is to get to the NFL, but it's not my goal. My goal is to get you to Mother's Day where you can cross the stage and you're not going back to your mom's house and you could be a productive citizen. Now, and as we continue to recruit young men and have them in our program, I think when coaches, you still have to hold them to the fire that is work and reward, that you only can get fruit from the labor from what you put in. And to be able to understand that winning is a big factor. Those that winning is equated as success. It creates promotion. It creates an atmosphere, momentum, and those kind of things. So I think it's more of keeping things in perspective for them, that they understand no ring that you'll gain will get you a job, but the only thing will get you a job is the grit that you'll learn on this field and that degree you get when you cross the stage.
Wow. Beautiful. Coach Mo?
It's really a slippery slope, because I've been on both sides of it. For basketball players, every basketball player thinks he's going to the NBA. If I every year I walk in my team meeting, and I say, raise your hand if you want to go to the NBA, and like the entire room raise their hand. I got walk-ons who hasn't earned a scholarship at North Carolina Central, but they're gonna go to the NBA. So I don't want to bash their dreams. So what I do, and I do it pretty much every year, I have my manager set up some chairs, and we play a game that I really loved when I was in elementary called musical chairs, right? And at first, it's like 14 chairs, and of course, when the music stops, we eliminate a chair, and it goes from 14 to 10, from 10 to 6, from 6 to 2, and then there's finally a winner that I award. And at first, the guys don't really want to play. They like, Coach, why we playing this kiddie stuff? And then I say, okay, well, whoever wins gets a day off for preseason conditioning. So it gets serious. The competitive juices start flowing. And, my manager stopped the music, and we slowly eliminate the chairs. After a while, we have a winner. And I sit there and I tell those guys, I said, look, the moral of the story is there's a million guys out here that's trying to go to the NBA. So some of you couldn't win a game of musical chairs in your own gym with your own peers, with your favorite song playing. I said, so think about playing a game of musical chairs with a million guys, and it's only 35 chairs in here. Like, so where are you going to be when the music stops? And so I'm not telling them they can't make it in the NBA, but I'm putting their dream into perspective, right? And it helps that I once played there. It helps that I had a decent career, and it helps that I had to venture off into the real world too, because it puts everything into perspective. So they get tired of me preaching, as they call it, every single day, because I bring in guest speakers from the real world. We have jobs seminars. I demand greatness from them in the classroom, because a lot of them just have been conditioned just to be eligible, right? And just get by so they could be eligible all their life. And for it, they got a 2.1 GPA. And I told them the biggest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing y'all that, just because you got a degree, you're successful. I said, Big Mama come down and she got a cake from Walmart and she's screaming saying, "That's my baby," and you feel extremely proud, as you should, because a lot of you guys are first or second generational graduates in your family. But the reality is, when you walk across that stage with a 2.1, my mama always told me that the 2.1 is some trash. That's average, and average means you're just the best of the worst. So now you are immediately thrown into a pool of competitiveness with graduates from Yale and Harvard and all these Ivy League schools, and no one at a Fortune 500 company is going to accept someone with a 2.1 GPA. So we try to push them in all facets of their life and demand that excellence, because we know what awaits them out here in this world.
Wow. That's good. Look, Herman, I think we got two deacons on the line, right?
I'm still stuck on the musical chairs.
I love it. I'm fascinated. Coach Banks.
Well, you know, from where I sit, the first thing that you have to do is be able to identify the talent in the coach. And when I say the talent in the coach, that's the coach that you think that can groom he or she as a young person. And so that means that they have a chance to be successful winning in a particular sport and in the classroom. And so, and understand the structure of how important it is to graduate and not deviate from that plan. And so I'm fortunate right now at Southern to be surrounded by good coaches that had that mindset. Obviously, when I took the job, we was in a bad situation. You know, we had the first data ban ever, you know, caused a lot of probation for the teams. And so we had to go through a tough situation. I was a basketball coach at that point. And a lot of times when I look at that situation, I always rehash that situation. Guess what? It wasn't the student athlete themselves' fault. It was failure by the system. And so I'm inclined to make sure that we have a structure from leadership, from my structure, as what we're going to stand by. What's the expectation for each coach to make sure that they are supplying the need for each student. And then hopefully that coach has he or she own philosophy as well. And so we have an athletic department standard that we want the coaches to match. And so I think it's just important to have, like the two coaches we have on the set right with us today. As you listen to them, they have an understanding of the mission for the student athlete. Yeah. You know, a lot of times we're gonna get not the best athlete nor the best student. And so a lot of times when students come into at all level HBCUs, low resource institutions, there's probably got to be some type of standard or mode that we have to help create he or she to be a better student. And so with that being said, that you also have to have a good academic support on your campus. And so we was talking earlier about the bigger schools versus the smaller schools. And so, you know, they probably at the Power Five, they probably have a academic advisor for probably every 15 or 20. And, you know, we have 350 athletes, sometimes 375. And when I first came to Southern, we only had 2 academic advisors. And we had one, you know, sharing the duties as a compliance officer. That simply won't get it done because the coaches can't do everything as well. And so they are instructing and working with the academic team to make sure that their students are doing what needs to be done and attending what the academic team tell them they need to attend, because the coach has the most, to me, has the most influence over student athlete. No question about it. They got the playing time. The kid want to go pro. The kid want to you know, be the best player. And so there's an atmosphere that we all have to work together. And so you know, I think that when you have a leadership and you have a coach and you have an academic team that share that same vision, that you'll have a lot of success.
Yeah, I think leadership is everything ends with leadership. I have a question that's fairly light. I want to know, is it really a big difference when you are coaching in a classic? Is that special sauce something different? Is it like, I know the Aggie Eagle, Alabama A&M and Alabama State. I know Southern and damn near everybody. But what is it like when you are playing in those classics, man? Is it another level? Is the pride like for real? Does it amp it up just a little more? Is it different?
It's like it's like a homecoming on steroids. Our Magic City Classic, man, is, anytime they shut the public schools down because
No way.
They shut the public schools down in the state so that the teachers can go because it wouldn't have enough subs. I mean, it's
wow.
It's 80,000 in, probably about the same out. It is. I mean, when we drive to Birmingham and we spend the night, the town is gone for the whole week. When we pull into that stadium, I don't think it's any Choco available from here to Tennessee. I mean, folks are cooking. All you see is smoke and folks. So the guys coming out from the band, the game, the after concert. I mean, if you've never been, and I've coached in a bunch, you have the last Saturday in October, you got to get you a Magic City Class. That's a bucket list. If you hadn't been and you die without it, that's a poor life.
Coach, I'm trying to get that this year, Coach, or whenever they say we can go back outside and play, I'm trying to come down and check it out.
Look, even if your school playing, come on down.
Well, mine won't be playing.
Look, let me tell you something, Coach. I got a lot of Southern University fans watching right now. I will be at whatever game that Southern University is playing, just for my that are blowing.
Hey, look here. You got to put it on your bucket list now. You got to put it on.
Coach Mo, I went to Edward Waters for undergrad, and we used to play in James Weldon Johnson, this little 7th grade middle school gymnasium, and that was my first experience with Black college basketball. Right. And the Greeks, there is something special about Black college basketball. What is it like playing in against a rival? I don't know who. I mean, Central goes pretty hard for everybody else too.
A&T.
What is that like, bro?
It's become us with everybody. Like every time we go somewhere, it's the OJ's performing at halftime, and it's right
the OJ
night or something. Like it's always something with us now. So we kind of everybody
whiting out the building and all that stuff.
Blackout, wear your black shirts, and you get in free. And at the halftime, Frankie Beverly and May's gonna be. It's always something, right? But the main thing with us is North Carolina A&T, and it's been a historic tradition. What I found out, man, it's a little different in basketball, I guess. But what I found out, and I actually relate this to the kids, is, we don't like them and they don't like us. That's a given. We already understand that. But most of the pressure comes from the fans, right? Those are the ones who really have the rivalry. Like with us, it's like, look, you can't get too high or get too low, because if you win this game, they're not giving you a trophy afterwards anyway. Like we still have to win the BX tournament to be able to go to the NCAA. Mm-hmm. And so I try not to put a great additional pressure on our guys, because I'm like, and then the other thing, if you ever notice this too, like it's a lot of people in the gym, but if you just stop and look up, it's so much going on that everybody's not watching the basketball game.
Oh, yes.
I told these kids, like, yo, they come in here for a fashion show, and they're using you for entertainment purposes. So don't go out here trying to think I got to perform for 20,000 people, because they're not really looking at you. They just, you know what I'm saying?
It's the side show, Coach.
Oh, it's the side show. Like it's a fashion. You got a fashion show. You got some stepping. Then they can't wait for a timeout so the DJ can play his song and somebody do their routine.
And
it goes on, and then you got the old school player up here who 78 and he's still single, so he trying to, it's so much going on here, man. And I'm like, let's not do that. But it's an incredible rivalry with North Carolina A&T.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that rivalry. You know Thanksgiving when it goes down. Now I am, for everybody watching, and even the people at Southern, I will disclose this. I am a Grambling graduate 2 times.
Yeah,
So
we know.
it is difficult during Thanksgiving, but it is always go Jags. But shots out to my Grambling Tigers. But let's talk about that rivalry in Thanksgiving, the Bayou Classic.
That's the granddad of them all. That's a very exciting time. And I heard someone say earlier that they wouldn't fire a coach for losing, but they go out the window. they go out the window. The AD, the coach, and everybody else will be fired if you lose 2 minutes on rivalry games. So let's get this game for real. But that Grambling and Southern game is something that's extraordinary. And what you all just got through talking about. That's all level playing field, the pageantry of the SWAC. Yeah. The style show when they come into the football game or the basketball game. The dancing dolls. Shaking and moving. The DJ going on, then the band start going at each other. That's our ammunition to keep us on safe basis. And you want to continue. I always tell you, we want to continue to keep that pageantry and that game day atmosphere just like that, because that's our level playing field. And so when you start talking about recruiting student athletes, you get a student athlete to a Grambling Southern game, the Magic City Classic, you get them to an event like that and they start looking around and seeing 60 and 70,000 people. And then they start hearing the band start going at each other. And my God, you start looking around and seeing all the beautiful ladies in the stands and all that. I mean, you got to sell something. So we try to make sure that they come to those type of games, because that's how we get the student athletes to come to our smaller universities. And so we're not going to change that at all. But, in Southern case, a lot of times we even talk about that Grambling Southern game, but a lot of times, I tell everybody when we go on the road, it's a big classic for us. They're going to bring their best show. I mean, you could tell about when we travel, the ticket prices that change. Parking $10 for some people, but it's $20 when we come in town. So, right. So this is a for real tradition here when you start talking about Black college, and we don't need to change that. We have our own identity. Matter of fact, for our level, our attendance in football and basketball is always right there at the top. And so we have something that we can gravitate to. I think if we ever start putting it all together and able to get TV and other Fortune 500 companies buying into us, we'll put a lot of people out of business.
I think.
So, and I'm gonna throw this to you and the other guys, if you could answer this, but I do want to talk a little bit about women in athletics. So, talk a little bit about, from the AD's perspective, of how you keep that level playing field with women in athletics. And if any of the other 2 coaches, Moten or Hilili, want to jump in, but how do you ensure that women's athletics has a place at the HBCU when it comes to sports? Because, there are some tough women out there, and we have some fantastic games and fantastic ability. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, you can just take the Southwest Athletic Conference Basketball League as it relates to the ladies side, and every night you step out on the court, you see we have some of the best coaches that's leading those group of young ladies, and but we understand. So let's make it clear so I can lay it out. We understand what the revenue sports are, all right, but we also understand how important it is to make sure that we build up our female sports. And so you have to have, first of all, the president, Dr. Belton, who's very good about making sure we have equity. And you have to have a leadership, in my case, to make sure that we are giving those sports the same attention and attraction and financial resources that we do in the other university. I mean, the other teams at our university. And so, and then it helps when you're able to, and this is my motto, when you're able to invest into a female coach or a female sport that happens to start winning and be pretty dominant.
Right.
And I think when that starts to happen, it's a carryover. And our latest basketball program is out of sight, and there has been times where that depends on who they playing in that rivalry, where hey, it's almost packed before the boys game start. I remember once 10 years ago, it wouldn't be like that. And so it has changed, but you have to invest in that, and you have to be able to promote that coach and that team, just like you're promoting men's basketball. You have to promote softball just like you're promoting baseball. And you have to have some fairness about you, some equity about you to make sure that they get the same opportunities that will fade away. A lot of times we get caught up in the business because we know that football and basketball are the main resource revenue making sports at all colleges, and definitely at our HBCUs, because men's basketball, they can go and lose every game, and we can make $1 million off them in preseason because they playing games that's called game guarantees. And so, and we find ourselves doing that a lot to make up the economic impact for historical black colleges. But you also have to make sure that you're finding ways that other sports don't have the means to do that. Those are unrevenue sports, to make sure that you're simply doing things like making sure they have schedules like everybody else, and don't diminish their sizes, and make sure that they're getting on your radio commercials like other coaches, and don't diminish their time. And so, we have to make sure that we have fair practice. There's a thing about Title IX, but you don't want to be motivated by Title IX. You want to be motivated to do the right thing when you're a leader.
Period.
Thank you so much, Coach, for saying that. Shouts out to all the women athletes out there.
Yeah, that's a very strong point. I want to ask Coach Hill Ely and Coach Moulton, how is it leading a flagship of the HBCUs? You guys represent both.
It's 9:00.
Sports. You're at flagship institutions for our HBCUs. How is it, and is there pressure carrying the banner, being in your respective places and states? What type of pressure is that, knowing that you represent HBCUs when you step out and play guarantee games, or find yourselves in NCAA tournaments or on television on ESPN? Is that added pressure for you?
Well, I think, anytime that you get an opportunity to play. This past year, we had a chance. We played Florida State. We played UAB. And the thing that, I wanted to, that I tried to drive home to the coaches and players is that, we're going, against an opponent that have more resources and everything and everything else. The bottom line is that you want to go out and give a gallant effort. You want to go out and, and play every single play, because they only can put 11 out on the field. So we want to go out, and for all of you guys that wanted to be at 1A Bowl Division, this is your day. So let's go, go out and prove to them that you belong, that you can compete with them. Now, they should have more than us as the game goes on. They should be able to wear us down. But if they ever get caught slipping, we want to put ourselves in a position that we can step on them and hold them. And we played Florida State, and they had 3 horses with 3 Seminoles on them. And I guess their expectation, we just gonna demolish them. But they don't. That particular day, they had 1 horse, and it didn't even work out for them. So they played us hard, and we played them, and we had our chances to win. But we want to make sure that when we go out, we playing for Alabama State, but we playing for HBCU every time we play out of conference.
Yeah.
Wow.
For me, it's a little different because I have a rare, unique opportunity to be the head coach at an institution that I attended. and I received 2 degrees from as well. So I wouldn't call it pressure because I've lived enough life to know what pressure. Like I'm from the projects, so I lived in poverty over half my life, so I know what real pressure is.
Yeah.
Right? This basketball games ain't pressure.
That's good context right there, brother.
Yeah,
That's
like
real good context.
and it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I see coaches pulling their hair out thinking they got to do this and da. And I coach the game to do the best that I can, and wherever the chips fall, that's where they fall. And I try to control my controllables. So I do have a distinct advantage of and responsibility because I am the head coach of an institution that I attended. The inception of my coaching career, a lot of people don't know this. I started off as a middle school coach. And then I gravitated to the high school ranks. And North Carolina Central called and asked me to come back. And I told them no 3 times because I didn't want any parts of the business of college athletics. I love the purity and the innocence of helping young Black men who look like myself from impoverished neighborhoods find their way to life. And it wasn't until some of the alums got on the phone and said, man, come on back, we need you. As I become the head coach, well, it's a coaching vacancy, and I'm interviewed by a committee. And everybody on this panel knows what that committee looked like. Yeah. I'm being interviewed by this committee, and I don't have any head coaching experience on the collegiate level. And I just told them, look, if you hire me, in 5 years, we'll win a MEAC championship, and in 5 years, we'll be the ACC school. So I'm sure you guys heard about Tobacco Road and the significance of Tobacco Road where we're from. And just so happened, in 2014, we played NC State and we beat them. And we led from start to finish and we beat them. It was the best thing that ever happened to our university, but it was the worst thing that happened to our university now because we can't schedule anymore. So it makes it really, really difficult, to schedule basketball games. So that kind of put us on the map and kind of garnered our respect off of that game because we live in a situation in a demographic where we're 5 minutes away from Duke. We're 10 minutes away from North Carolina. We're 20 minutes away from NC State. So a lot of times that publicity, it's a gift and a curse. It's a gift to be in it, but it's a curse because a lot of times, the publicity, you can get swallowed in the midst of that. It's almost like the Kardashians, but you not Kim, right? Like, yeah, but you just one of the other ones, but you got to fight for your respect because you need camera time and publicity for your institution as well. So that's what we've done. And so that's been the challenge. I don't really consider myself the program leader. I just consider myself a stakeholder of a program and a baton that was passed to me by the late, great John McClendon. And once you look at it that way, like, look, man, it's going to be it was some before you, it's going to be some after you. You just take this baton, you run this race, and you make sure you leave this program better than when you got it and hand it off to the next person when God says you must do that. So that's how we pretty much carry on.
Wow. Okay. So I have a question for all of you, and this one is for the fans. My phone has been blowing up during this live webcast. And as you know, the fans are like the unofficial board of HBCU athletics. Yeah. They have fan pages. They have social media sites and websites and web pages and Twitter comments. How do you navigate the commentary and the, coach, you should have, did the wing tee during the last second of the game? And how do you navigate all of that? And you can't go in and out of the grocery store without some sort of play call for the next basketball season. And are you going to bring back Big Ricky? Is he going to be the lead center this year? How do you deal with that? Coach AD, we'll start with you because I know you get it a lot with all the sports. So we'll start there with the fans about even where they're sitting and the ticket prices. And, we're the unofficial board.
Yeah. So I tell them all the time is that, I just make sure when I'm at the restaurant with my wife and we out eating and everything that I wipe the ranch dressing off my mouth because I don't know when somebody gonna come up and speak to me and ask me about this, what's going on with football, what about basketball or that coach. But I guess my understanding is that you know, we're in a business that a lot of people think that's easy and that they could do it. And we're in a business where a lot of people, when they talk to you, they quite don't understand what has to take place behind the scene.
Right.
And so, as it relates to me, I don't get frustrated by it, you know, and I'm willing to sit down with you and have a conversation. I think that once we have a conversation, I can shine a light that get us all some understanding. And I try to handle myself transparent. I try to make sure that information is out there. I try not to put information out there when I don't know it. And so you know, and when I was coaching and you've been in athletics all your life, you know that you're going to get criticism.
Right.
You know, a lot of times coaches win and people don't like you for different reasons because of you winning. The great Ben Job always used to say, man, it's better to win sometime than all the time.
Right.
Because when you win too much, people say you're arrogant, you think you know it all, and then you get people that don't like you from that standpoint. And so, but I tell our coach we want to win all the time, though. So, you know, the thing about it is that you have to just have an understanding. This is the line of work that you're in. This is what you do. People going to approach you. People going to criticize you. People going to have advice for you. And you take it with a grain of salt. And my dad always used to tell me this. He and I have a conversation and we'd be talking and bless his heart, he's gone now. He used to say, little boy, you don't know everything. And so why don't you listen? You know, and so I hear that voice all the time. And so when people send me emails or when they make a suggestion or a comment, I do listen. And a lot of times I bring it to my staff and say, okay, what about this? Do it has any bite to it? Can we make a change because of this? You know, but I don't let them get into the business of ostracizing our coach. We're going to stand by our coaches 100%. You know, if I feel like there's a need to do something in the future, then we would do that. But they are the chosen ones to lead our team. And I ask that everybody, you know, get behind them and support them and cheer our team on the victory so we can have success. And so that's one arena or area that I won't let happen. And I can probably get a little standoffish, but when you start talking about anything coming to me, it's all good. I can handle it.
Well, good. Coach Moten, what about you? How do you deal with the unofficial board?
It's interesting to hear Ro talk because this is the key thing. I'm sitting here like, I still think he was an incredible basketball coach, but I'm hearing him talk from an AD perspective.
AD.
He better than us right now. So I let him have. No, I say this and I tell people this all the time, man. On March 25th, 2009, I was hired at North Carolina Central. On March 26, 2009, I was almost fired, a day after I got the job. And the reason is my athletic director, Ingrid Wicker McCree, the first day I got on the job, she called me and she said, I want you to go to lunch with this guy, Joe Blow. And I said, who is that? And she said, he's a guy that didn't think you were worthy to have this job. So I want you to go to lunch with him and show him that you are really a great guy and knowledgeable and you're able to lead this program. And I told her, I'm not doing that. Because if I went to lunch every day with someone that didn't appreciate me and don't even know me, like I'm really wasting my time trying to convince someone who's committed to misunderstanding me. This guy's, he don't even know me. So I'm not going to lunch with this guy. And I thought she was going to fire me on the spot. But, you know, God rest my grandmother's soul. She always told me, you know, she was a very spiritual person. And she always told me, like, boy, they talked about Jesus Christ, so they're going to talk about you. And the same people that cheered Jesus as he entered Jerusalem was the same people that crucified. And so with that, I always kept that in mind. So Ro, as an athletic director, he listens to it. I'll be honest, I don't listen to it. I don't read any articles on my team. I don't watch any interviews. I'm almost like I practice social distancing during the season. right?
You've been on this social
That's
distancing.
my new thing right there. I'm
Yeah.
gonna trademark this word. I practice social distancing because what other people say about you is none of your business. And if you allow them to fuel you through booze, you allow them to fuel you through cheers, and so you're always on
Right.
on an uneven playing surface. And I don't ever want to be that way. I don't want to listen to any of the outside people because I never listen to them anyway. And plus, basketball is the one sport where 99% of your critics think they can do it better than you anyway. So it ain't no need to
Right.
right. It's no need to even try to convince them otherwise. Just let them go ahead and tweet and so on and so forth. So I live my life, man.
Yeah. Coach Ely.
Well, pretty much in the same vein, that the coaches before and AD before just said is, you have, we're in a sport, and we're in sports that fans, they buy the tickets, so they want to have a voice to, say what they need to say. But, I've been doing it almost 30 years. I got 10 coaches sitting around the table and been doing it just as long. And as I tell the coaches, when fans call your office and if they catch you and they give them an opportunity to say what they're going to say and just tell them, hey, look, we look forward to seeing you at the next game. See what you're saying. Keep it moving. Give people, they invest in us. And so and as I tell them all the time, my suggestion box run over, but my donation box is empty. So, it's one of those ones where, hear them out, keep it moving and make yourself, not as accessible. A lot of times it's not that you arrogant, but it's, you just been working 16 hours a day. Now somebody meet you for 16 seconds and tell you what you should have been doing. So, it's a little different, but they're part of our game, and you have to treat them as such, or if not, they'll start alienating you in the game. So give them a platform. Sometimes I listen for 2 hours. Whatever they got to say. Today, I saw a couple fans, they want to ask me when the season was started. I'm walking in the grocery store, I coughed in my hand, and hell, they hauled ass. So I didn't get a chance.
It is it's wonderful to hear the dichotomy in the responses. Teddy Roosevelt was the best thing ever happened to me. The man in the arena. The critic doesn't count. That for me, I thrive on nonsense, not engaging it. I'm slightly confrontational too, and it probably is a hazard to my profession. But I give zero of them bucks. Like I just do not care, because you all see things and have more information than the average consumer of your product.
Yeah.
And understand the variables. So it's and I can tell, like, I understand why we respond the way we do. I know that there are times when we have to hear people, and there are times when we don't have to hear people, and there are times when people just absolutely don't know when to shut the hell up.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that I typically get with. And it again probably is hazardous to my professional career, but I'd rather not give people yards. I'm a graceful person, but I can't give you yards.
Yeah.
What have you guys been doing for fun since the quarantine, if that's a thing? Have you been able to have some fun, do anything that you normally have not had a chance to do, particularly around this time? What's going on during the quarantine?
Absolutely nothing.
And you've been enjoying that, right?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Look, eventually you could do nothing so long that
it's not fun.
It's not even fun.
It's not fun.
I don't, it gets you to the point where you wake up and be like, oh, what am I doing today? And you start running out of stuff to do. Everything's on lockdown. You only so much film you can watch. You start calling the players. It's nothing isn't fun.
It's not fun. What about you, Coach Moten? I know you played a round of golf today, Coach Moten. So we kind of know some of the things you've been doing.
One thing I'm committed to is self-pampering, right? Because like I'm just gonna commit to that. Like this quarantine has shown you that this thing can stop at the drop of a dime, and you can't take it for granted. As we already know, we've lived enough life. But the other thing, I've really been enjoying it because, as y'all know in this field, my kids are 7 and 11, and I'm often always gone during the season, and even in the summer, I probably get a month to spend with them, and then I'm always on the road recruiting and so on and so forth. And so, in summary, I spend a lot more time with other people's kids than I do my own. So this quarantine has slowed me down, and we have a party in here every night. It's some foolishness going on, but trust me, like we have the most fun, and we creating all these magical moments where I'm making up for a bunch of lost time. I bought a keyboard the other day, and I used to play a little bit when I was
Boys to Men, right? Because you were the keyboardist with
No, that's New Edition, Sean.
New
Edition.
the keyboardist with New Edition, right? now.
I wish I could only, I wasn't great, but I was just playing songs, back then that was popular, Tender Love and I Need Love.
Man.
Just to get a girl. It was all for girl purposes. That's what it was. And so now I bought a keyboard, and now I'm learning how to play all over again, man. So I'm just utilizing my time as best I can.
Yes. Yes.
What you getting into, Coach Banks? I know you've been exercising.
Yeah, I've been doing that. I've been getting my exercise in now. I don't usually have a chance to do as much as that because you're on the move. But actually, with the position that I'm in, we've been doing a lot of work as it relates to where we're going to go. So the patio is my office now.
Okay.
And so I'm out on the patio. I'm out on the patio 70% of the time. But same here. I'm always gone, always moving around, and so I've been able to spend a little time around the house. And you only can clean out the garage so many times.
Sure.
And so the thing is, I enjoy watching my wife and daughter do they TikTok. What is that? TikTok?
Yes.
Oh, nice
videos and all that. So I'm learning a little bit about that, and so doing their thing. Yeah. So I've been able to enjoy a little family time that you don't get, and sometimes I ask myself, I might be around here too much. It look like I'm getting on their nerves. So that's when I have to go to the office and do a little work. Yeah, because they used to me being gone a lot.
I do want to give you guys one chance before we get out of here, to just talk to your fans, talk to the HBCU community. If there's any final words, Coach Banks, we'll start with you.
But before you do that, I also want to give you a chance to give some insight on a mentor, a person who impacted your coach. And also while you're saying something to your fan base, also want you to leave us with maybe some cardinal tenets that you give to your student athletes, something that really is impactful to your programs. So, a mentor, someone that got you along the way, and some cardinal tenets that you run your programs by, as well as just leaving your fans with a word.
Coach Banks.
Yeah. So, mentor, I've been fortunate, and I've been blessed to be around a variety of coaches and I hate to, you probably on the spot to start calling names being coming from the basketball world, and such as I mentioned them earlier, Ben Jobe, and then you have a man like Billy Kennedy that I worked with at Southeastern, that was the coach at Texas A&M.
Oh man, he was at Murray State. I was at Murray State when Billy Kennedy was at.
Yeah. So he, I've been knowing him since my college days. He was one of the assistant coaches, I think, my junior and senior year, and then we had a relationship going. So, I've been forced to be around a lot of people, and I hate to stop there. I mean, from a basketball perspective, Coach Hill that was at Suno, has always been in my ear. You go back to my high school coach. And so I'm going to stop right there because I can keep calling names. But being an administrator, to be honest with you, if it wasn't for Attorney Clayton, I probably wouldn't been sitting in this seat right now because he thought from my leadership of turning around the basketball program that I could turn around Southern University Athletic Department. And so I'm thankful for him as it relates to believing in me to get me to this point of being the athletic director. And so I better stop there because I'm getting in trouble with names.
Yes.
But I also believe in the creed. But I'm gonna go back a little further. Let me rewind this and do it the right way. My father was my biggest motivator.
Coach
And
Bank.
I never leave him out because even though I enjoy watching Magic Johnson, Isaiah, and Michael Jordan, and all those guys, I like to emulate them, but I always wanted to be like my father. And so, he is the cornerstone of me getting to where I need to be today. And he taught me the principles, what to believe in. He always taught me to believe in God, number one, be led by the Holy Spirit. And if you do that, then fairness should be in your body, in your mindset about how you lead your program. And I always look at from a basketball coach now to the athletic director that this is my family, and I want to make sure that everybody has treated fairly, equally, and after the same thing. That means graduating and winning championships. And so I want to put principles in place for coaches to make sure that our student athletes can do that. And but one thing about it is that I do believe that I'm at the best university on earth to be the athletic director at, and to be in leadership. We have a great board. Our chairman of the board, Damon Rutledge, and my athletic chair, Mr. Bartholomew, is very great. Host with the other people, supervisors that's on that board, led by a great president, Dr. Belton himself. Our fan support and engagement with our alumni and everything is great. I believe that Southern can, if fans invest, that we can go to another level at like a mid-major university. And that's my mindset, to turn this program around and to put us at a mid-major status that I think that we can play on that level. A lot of people say, well, you playing Lafayette, you playing Louisiana Tech and all those people. I say, yeah, we playing them to beat them because I think Southern can be at that mindset. I tell everybody that Southern is my LSU, Southern is my Alabama, Southern is my Texas A&M. I don't think no less to Southern, and we're going to try to build and do everything that we can to have supremacy. And so Jaguar Nation is known to travel, and they known to support, and I really thank them for all that they give to us and the support that they give to us and the continued support, especially during this time, by making donations and doing the things that they're doing to try to help our student athletes. And so there's no other place, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart, that I want to be than Southern University.
All right, Coach Moten.
My mentor, it was so many. You don't, because no one gets here alone.
Yeah.
And the polished product that you think you're looking at now, I was far from that growing up. So I needed. It was the African proverbs. I needed a village for me.
Every last one of them.
But my high school coach, Frank Williams, was prominent, and along with Preston McLean, God rest his soul. My Pee-wee coach, Ron Williams, at the boys club, he's the first one to believe in me and show me tough love, and he's responsible for raising myself and John Wall and PJ Tucker. So he has a whole crew of guys, and my college head coach, Greg Jackson, and I can't leave out Bill Hayes, who's a all-time great on the black college circuit, at A&T and Winston-Salem State, as an incredible football coach. But to this day, I just call him whenever I'm going through something. And my last nugget is you know, I don't really consider myself a basketball coach. I consider myself a life coach. I've been afforded that opportunity, and I'm just fortunate that I'm able to use basketball as a metaphor to teach, you know, life lessons to young men. And I think it's extremely important. And we try to make sure that these guys understand that the ages of 18, 22, and 30 are the most critical years in a young Black athlete's life. And I say 18 because it's the first time out of your parents' house. And then 22 is the first time into the real world. And then at age 30, I call it the coulda, shoulda, woulda age. It's the first time you realize you really ain't got your life together, right? And so we want to prepare all of these young men because they're the future husbands, they're the future head of households, they're the future leaders, coaches, and fathers. And we want these young men to hit the ground running and have a valuable experience gained from North Carolina Central basketball, where they have a head start in life and they can look back and apply these same principles that we taught them throughout their journey.
Yeah. Anything to your fans, Coach Moten?
Oh, Eagle Nation, y'all know we love you, man. Y'all have stayed with us, and we're only 9, 10 years old right now, but you guys have stayed with us and been by our side, you know, from day one. And we ask that you continue to do so, continue to love and support us. And not only the basketball program, but just every program on North Carolina Central's campus, because these student athletes work tirelessly to represent you and have an incredible display so they can go out there and represent this proud university. So we thank you for the love and support, and we encourage you to continue it.
Awesome. Dr. Coach Ely.
Hey, like, it was great listening to those guys. I'm telling you, that's powerful. I guess my current mentor through college ball is Joe Taylor. He's was my college coach. He gave me the trade of coaching football. Coach motto was, you know, give a man a fish, you eat for a day, teach him how to fish, he'll eat for the rest of his life. And he taught me how to fish. He gave me this profession of coaching. My little league coach, David Baker, you know, a young man who saw something in me when I couldn't see anything in myself, who gave me an opportunity to play little league football and waive the cost because we couldn't afford it. My high school coach, Thomas McLemore, who was who is a white man who coached me at an integrated school, first time, you know, playing ball with white players and going to school with whites, and giving me an understanding that I'm not less than. I'm, you know, we different and we come from different sides of the track, but we're all equal. And to be able to coach my young men today is pretty much off of all the guidance of those guys that have had chances to be around, from your Eddie Robinsons, your Bill Hayes, as Coach mentioned, Pete Richardson, Coach Houston Markham, guys who have really pioneered, Willett Bailey, who have pioneered HBCUs. You know, I got into coaching football at HBCUs so that I wanted to be the best coach that I could possibly be, so that my guys at HBCUs could have the same experience that they had at the PWIs. The information, as we talked about the difference in resources, there's a lot of difference in resources with HBCUs and PWIs, but when it comes down to the coaching, bar none, HBCUs have some of the best coaches that's out there today in any profession.
That's right.
The thing that I want to be able to, for my guys to take when they leave here, is that if you allow yourself to lose sight of where you came from, I can really show you where you're going. I have the responsibility for 5 years to get them to what they'll do for the next 50 years of their life. And I have to make sure that I'm a great person, I'm a great coach, and more importantly, I have to make sure that I have resilience. These young men got to always realize that it's not going to be peaches and cream. You know, at some point in your life, you're going to have to go back to training camp. You're going to get so low that you're going to think you can't go no more. You're going to have to go. And it's not going to be a ball involved. It's going to be a family involved. And we got to be able to do what we need to do to get them to the finish.
Man,
Well, I'll shout right now. Okay, Coach Dr. Hill Ely, anything to those Hornets out there, to Hornet Nation?
Well, hey, Hornet Nation, and as I tell everybody, things that happen in Montgomery changed for everybody across the country. We started the civil rights movement. We moved to the front of the bus, and we shall overcome. So as we continue to build our program right here at Alabama State, we know that what we do here is at Alabama State is going to change the world. We're not just trying to change Montgomery. Things that we do echo throughout the country.
Man, if y'all don't get the hell up off of here.
I'm telling you.
Preachers,
Wow, shout right now. I could go
bishops, and everything in addition to being coaches. Real talk, it is a pleasure to meet all of you. I'm definitely a fan. Know all of you because of the work that you do, but I now will root harder for you while you're playing against. Hell, you don't play against any of my schools, so I can root for you wherever you're doing whatever you're doing. But as men, it's wonderful to see that we have strong leadership leading these young men, and for you, Coach Banks, young men and women, and both you, Coach Hill, Ely, and Coach Moten. I know you also are about equity. It's in your bios. It's about the work that you do. So I know you raised the banner high for the women's athletics programs at your institutions, and I just want to thank you all for coming out to hang out with us today, man. I really appreciate it.
I mean, really, I appreciate it.
I'm a fan.
And Herman, before we get out of here, I do want to say this. It is so exciting and comforting and inspiring for me to see these 4 Black men, you included, Herman, on the screen that really embody what Black excellence is. Yeah. And if you have not had a chance to read his article this week, Dr. Herman Felton wrote an article, penned a letter on Ahmaud Arbery, and it is riveting, and you should check it out. And I am just so excited to see these coaches that are inspiring so many Black males in a time when we are being time that we are being lynched in the streets. And you all have such a high responsibility to ensure their safety and their security, but also to bring them up, as you mentioned, Coach Moten, as young men, and Dr. Ely. So I applaud you both, and all 4 of you, for the work that you're doing and being a role model for African-American males. So thank you.
As my man Denzel Washington said in my favorite movie, Glory, we men, ain't we?
Well, listen, I want our viewers, we're going to get out of here, but I want our viewers to make sure you share this webcast with others. It will be still on our website. And, check us out, the Higher Education Leadership Foundation. Thanks you all for joining us this evening. The founders, Dr. Herman Felton over there on the ones and twos. Mr. Gregory Dees over there in the office, Dr. Tony Pinkard, the president of Wilberforce, and myself, Dr. Melvin Williams. I want to thank you guys for joining us this evening.
Man, if I could ever be any assistance in any way, shape, form, or fashion, man, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, man. I appreciate you, brothers.
Appreciate you all for having us.
Thank you for having us.